Hi, welcome to my channel. So in previous videos, we work on landing page and login page, and today we will create main page. So before going to coding, please subscribe my channel and like this video, and also click the bell icon so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. So let's get started. So first we need to hide the login page. So go to the class login page and give display property none. Now come to HTML page. Let's insert new comments right after the end of the login page. Give new speed page and comment it, and also give end of newsfeed page. Now give section which will be the wrapper of the entire page. Now assign a class and name it feeds page. And now give a nav tag and assign a class feeds nav. So the navigation will consist of three different parts: icons, search bar, and the little section for the user. Let's open div elements with a class name icons. Let's open a link and give a class name active. And now inside that, insert font awesome icons. So the class name will be going to FAS FA-home. So we are going to have four different icons. So let's create another one and give class name FAS FA- hashtag. And now copy this and paste it two times. Now change the font awesome class FAR FA-bill. And the last one will be FAR FA-envelope. So that's it about the first part. So now open the browser. Let me zoom it so you can see better. Okay, so now let's create the search bar. Now come back to code. So now open a div and now assign a class name search dash bar. And now put here a font awesome icons with a class name FAS FA-search. And then create a input element with type text. And also we need to have a placeholder attribute with a value search Twitter. And finally, let's assign a class name search bar input. Okay, so search bar we are done, and next we need to have user inside the nav. We'll have an image and name of the user, also a little arrow. So let's open another div element with a class user. And next we need to again give another div element which will be wrapper of the image. Let's assign a class name user image wrapper, and then insert it an image element inside of the source attribute. Let's give it a path of the image. We have folder name images, and then we need to select the user one.jpg. Okay, after that we are going to create a link element. should be the full name of the user. Let's assign to its class link and insert here full name like my name, Dipankar Das. And finally create an icon which should be the arrow. Let's give it a class name FAS dash chevron dash down dash down. So that's it about the markup of the navigation. Now let's style it. So the first thing we will do is to decrease the size of the image. For now it's too big, so let's use one of the image attribute called with it and set it to 40 pixel. Okay, so now the size of the image is smaller. We are ready to start styling of the navigation. First of all, I'm going to define the width and the height of the entire page. Let's insert here new comments, newsfeed page. Then select section element, and now I'm going to set with it as 100%. As for the height, let's make it 100 VH. Okay, so the navigation should be fixed and it's going to place at the top of the page. So now select the nav element and set position to fixed. Also, we are going to define its width and height. I'm going to make it as 100% with it. As for the height, 6.5 rem. And finally change the background color, make it white, hash FFF. And alright, so the navigation is positioned fine. As you know, it consists of three different parts and I'm going to place them side by side in a row. Also they should be placed in the center of the navigation. For that, let's use flexbox. So we need to give display flex and justify content center. And finally, create some shadow using box shadow with the values 0, 0, 0.7 rem. As for the color, we will use RGBA. So the content of navigation is aligned now, and now I'm going to style the individual parts. Let's start with the icons. So in case of icons, we need to use again flexbox because I'm going to center them vertically. For that, we need to give display flex and align them center. So now the icons are aligned. So let's select the link. First of all, I'm going to read off default underline using text decoration none. Then create some space on the right side of each icon using margin right with the value 7 rems. Then increase the font size, make it 2.5 rem, and finally change the color of icons. I'm going to use color 9E, 9A, 9A, which is kind of gray color. Alright, so the icons are looking good. The only thing that I have to do is to change the color of the first icon, which should be active. So let's select that and make it color 1AA 1F5. So that's it about the icons. Now we will style the search bar. So inside of search bar we have two different elements, the icons and the input. And first of all I want to center them vertically. For that, let's again use flexbox. I mean display flex and align item center. Alright, now I'm going to style the input element and select it and define its width and height. I'm going to set width as 35 rems, and for the height let's make it 3 rems. Okay, next I'm going to change the default border, and also I want to make input rounded. Let's use border with value 0.1 rem. Solid, and the color will be T6 E1 E9, and then use for the border radius with value 3 rem. Alright, the next thing regarding input is to change its background color and also make some space the left side inside of it. So let's define the background color. Use a color D6 E1 E9, and then we need to give padding left with value 5 rems. Alright, we have here a quite big space, but it's needed because we need to place here the search icon. But before that, I'm going to add some style to input on focus. So let's select the input with focus. So on focus, I'm going to change the background color, and also I want to change the color of the border. Let's make background color white. And as for the color of the border, I'm going to use 1AA 1F5. And finally, we will use transition. We need here transition all and duration 0.3 seconds. Alright, that's it about input. Now we have to place the icon inside the input. For that, let's select I element and set its position to absolute. Next, let's increase the size of icon. Set font size as 1.6 rem. And now we have to position the icon in the right way. So let's define left 1.5 rem. And also change the color 9E, 9A, and 9A. Okay, so now let's check it. There is a problem in the icon, search icon. So come back to code and go to search bar class and change the position to relative. Now let's check it. Alright, that's it about the search bar. Now we have to move on and style the last part of the navigation, which is the user. It consists of three different elements. We have an image here, name, and the icon. Let's select wrapper div and create some space on left side using margin left with a value of 3 rems. So now I'm going to place elements side by side in a row, and also we need to center them vertically. So let's use flexbox. We need display flex, align item center. Alright, the last thing regarding wrapper is to change the type of cursor pointer. Now let's select the image wrapper and set width and height both as 4 rems. Width 4 rem and height also 4 rem. Now let's check it. Alright, now I'm going to get rid of the width attribute from the HTML for now. Okay, come back to code and go to HTML and remove the width from here. As you see, the image has increased again. It happened because we defined width and height for its parent element. Now we have to do the same for the image as well. Now let's select the class. In order to give image width and height of its parent element, we need to set both properties as 100%. So the width will be 100% and the height will be 100%. And also, in order to keep the quality of the image, I mean in order to avoid this stretching the image, we need to use object fit cover. And finally, let's make the image perfectly rounded. For that we have to use border radius 50%. Alright, that's it about the image. Next we need to take care of the link element. Now let's select the user link element. Then give some space on left side and right side using margin 0 on top and bottom, and then 1 rem on left and right side. Then get rid of the default underline using text decoration none. And then increase the font size, make it 1.8 rems, and finally change the color as 444. Alright, so the link is looking good, and the last element that we have to take care is the icon. Let's go and select it. So now change the color and make it 4444, and also increase font size 1.6 rem. Alright, that's it about the navigation. All the elements are styled, and actually we have finished working on it. So now we are done with the navigation. Now go to index.html, and after that open a div elements with class name feed setter. So let's insert here another div element and assign a class header top. Now insert here h4 heading and give here home. And finally we need I element with class name far fa star. As you see, for now the elements are not visible because they ended up behind the navigation. It happens because the navigation has position set as fixed. We will fix that once we start styling of feed header. But before that, make them visible using inline CSS padding top with value 6.5 rem. Now elements are visible and we can move on. Alright, that's it about the top part. Next we need to create the second part. Let's open div element and assign it to class name header post. So inside this part we will have an image input and icons. Let's open another div element, should be the wrapper of the image. So let's assign a class and give name header img wrapper. Now let's insert image tag. Now let's indicate the path of image. Now select the images folder and select the user1.jpg. Alright, now we need to create the input element with the type of text. Also we need to give placeholder attribute with the text what's happening. After that create three different icons. First one will be far fa dash image. Now create another one, and this will be FAS FA camera. And the third one will be FA dash chart dash bar. Alright, so we need to give another div element besides feed header. So give here a div. Cut this end of div and paste it after end of feed header. And now assign a class feeds content. Also change the width of the image 40 pixel. Alright, so let's style it. Alright, so let's insert new comments for feeds content. Then select the wrapper development. So the first thing that I want to do is to take care of the layout, and I'm going to do using a grid system. So let's select the feeds content class and give display grid. So now let's define grid template columns for an empty space. So I'm going to use the min max function as the minimum value. Let's insert here 5 rems. As for the maximum value, I'm going to use one fractional unit. Also set it as size 60 rems. For the second one, I'm going to define it as 40 rems and also give same min max value 5 rem and one fraction. Now let's define grid template rows. In this case, the size of the rows, I'm going to use min content. It means that the size of each row will be defined according to the content of each part. So we need to use repeat function as the number of rows. Let's insert 2 and then we need to use min content. Alright, the last thing regarding this content is to create some padding at the top of it. So padding top will be 6.5 rem. Next I'm going to style the feeds header. So the feeds header should be placed in the second column and in the first row. So let's select it. And then define grid column with line number 2 and 3. As for the grid row, the line numbers will be 1 and 2. And then change background color, make it white. And now give space at the top with margin top with value 1.5 rem. Okay, so next let's go ahead and take care of the top side of the header. So now select the class name of the div header top. So we will use flexbox for this. So let's give display flex. Now I'm going to center them vertically. So for that we will use align item center. Then in order to create distance between heading and icon, let's use justify content space around. And finally create border at the bottom. Let us assign a value 0.1 rem solid and light gray color EEE. Okay, I've done mistake somewhere. So come back to code. Let me see. Okay, justify content would be space between, not space around. Also, let's delete the padding from index.html. Delete this. Now open the browser. Alright, that's it about the wrapper. Let's go ahead and style the heading and the icon individually. Okay, so now select the heading elements and then increase the font size and make it 2.2 rems. Okay, so side heading is increased, but actually we need some space inside of header top. Okay, so let's go to header top and then give here padding and let's make it 1.5 rem. Alright, next I'm going to style the icon. So let's select it And now increase the font size to 2 rems and also change the color, make it blue using color 1AA1F5. Alright, so that's it about the header top. Now let's style the images, inputs and the icons. First we will align those in the middle. For that we will use flexbox. So select header post and assign with display flex. Then I'm going to center the elements vertically using align item center. Next, let's create some space inside the header post. So in order to make some space, let's use padding 1 rem. And then create border at the bottom with the value 0.1 rem solid and the color will be EEE. Alright, that's it about the wrapper. Next I'm going to style elements individually. Let's start with an image. So select this wrapper. So let's define width and height and make both of them 4 rems. Also create a space in right side of the image using margin right with the value 1.5 rem. Also delete the image width from the HTML because we already defined in CSS. For now the size of the image is increased again because we just defined the size of the wrapper, not image. So in order to apply width and height to the image, so let's select the image and assign to it width and height 100%. Now give object fit with the value cover. And finally make the image rounded with border radius with the value 50%. Alright, that's it about the image. Next we will style the input elements. So let's select it. Let's increase its width, make it 35 rem. Then set height as 3 rems. Now change the default border. Give your border and let assign a value 0.1 rem solid and use your color D6, E1, E9. Also make border rounded with border radius with value of 3 rem and also give background color D6, E1, E9. And finally let's make some space in input using padding. I'm going to set padding top and bottom 0.4 rem and left and right 1.5 rem. Alright, so the input is styled now. Finally we need to take care of the icons, so let's go ahead and select them. So at first increase the font size. I'm going to make it 2.5 rem and then change the color using color 1AA1F5. And finally let's give some space. Let's create it with margin and assign it a value 1 rem. Alright, so that's it about header post. Now let's create the post. Come back to HTML. Let's open a div elements right after the end of its header and assign with a class name post. This element will be wrapper of all the posts. Next I'm going to open another div which would be the wrapper of the post itself and let assign with a class name post. Next insert a div which will be the wrapper of the image of the user. Let's assign with a class name user avatar. Then insert here img element. In source attribute, indicate the path of the image. Next, we need to create post content. Let's open div element with a class name post content. So this element will be consist of 4 different parts. First will be the full name of the user, then font awesome icons which will represent the verified user. So let's open a div and give it a class post user info. Then inside of it we need to have h4 heading element, in which I'm going to use full name of the user, let's say Helen Brownie. Then we need a font awesome icons with a class name fas fa dash check dash circle. And finally let's create span elements. We need to have here at sign, then the full name Helen Brownie, and the amount of time 15 minutes. Next I'm going to insert in the post content the dummy text. So let's open p element with a class name post text. Now insert here some dummy text like lorem ipsum. After that we need an image, so let's wrap this image with div element. We should have class name post img. Then inside of it create image element, and in source attribute indicate the part of the image. We need here post img1.jpg. Next we need to create another div element with a class name icons, and then insert inside of it I element with a class name fa dash comment. We need to have 4 different icons, so the next will be fa dash retweet, and the next one will be far fa dash art, and the last one will be fas fa dash share dash alt. Alright, so that's it about the first post. For now it looks horrible because it's pure HTML, but we will take care it soon. So overall we will have 5 posts there. Therefore I will duplicate this post 4 times. Then I will make some changes. Alright, now let's check it in the browser. Okay, so everything is looking fine, but we need to change the image of other post. So let's do it. Now change the full name as John Bar. Now let's change the images and also the username. Also change the duration of the post and also change the post image too. Like this, change all of the post name, user image, username, duration of the post, and post image. Alright, so that's it about the post HTML, and now we will style it. So let's go. Let's select the div element and define grid column and give line numbers 2 and 3. And as for the grid row, line numbers will be 2 and -1. Also change the background color. Let's make it white. FFF. Alright, so the elements are aligned in the right way. Now let's decrease the size of the images. Let's start with images of the user. So select its wrapper, which has class name user avatar. I'm going to set width and height, both of them as 6 rem. So now we need to define width and height of the image element as well. So let's select it and set width and height as 100%. Also use object fit as cover. Alright, the last thing we need to do is to make the image rounded. So for that, give border radius 50%. Okay, so that's it for the first image. Now let's take care of the second one. Now select its wrapper and I'm going to set the width as 48 rems. As for the height, we need to have 30 rems. Then like the first image, we need to define for the second one as well. Actually, we need the same properties. So let's select the image element. Then copy all the properties from here and paste them for second image. So the only thing we need to change is the value of the border radius properties. Instead of 50%, I'm going to use 1 rem. Alright, so with the image we are done. Next we are going to take care of the alignment of the element. As you know, inside the post we have two parts. First one is the image of the user, then we have the post content. So I'm going to place two parts side by side. For that I'm going to use flexbox. So let's select the post and assign to it display flex. Next I'm going to give space for the post. So for that we will use padding and let assign a value 1.5 rem, and also create the border for each post using border bottom with a value 0.1 rem solid, and the color will be EEE. Okay, so that's it about the post. There is a little problem. If you take a closer look of the image of the user, it's slightly shrunk. In order to fix that, we need to use the flex item properties, which is called flex shrink, and we have to set it as 0. So now it's no longer shrinks. The problem is fixed. Now let's create some space in right side of the image. Let's use margin right with the value 1.5 rem. Okay, so next I'm going to take care of the user info, in which we have a full name, font awesome icon, and the username. So I'm going to place them horizontally in a row. So for that, let's use flexbox and select the wrapper div elements and assign to it display flex. Now let's create some space in top and bottom in margin. So I'm going to set it as 1 rem on top and bottom and 0 on left and right side. Alright, so that's it about the wrapper div element. Now we have to customize each element individually. Let's start with the heading element. Select it. At first, let's increase the font size. So I'm going to make it as 1.6 rem. And in order to create some space in right side of heading, margin right with the value 0.5 rem. So the heading is styled, but as you see, the elements inside of the user info are not placed quite good. So we have to center them vertically, and for that I'm going to use align items center. Alright, so next we have to style the font awesome icons. So let's select it. And increase the font size, make it as 1.6 rem. And then I'm going to change the color. Let's make it blue using color 1AA1F5. And finally I'm going to make some space on the right side of icon with margin right with a value 0.5 rem. Alright, so that's it about the icon. Now we'll select the last element inside the user info is the span. Let's go ahead and select it. I'm going to change its font size. Let's make it 1.6 rem. Okay, so with the post user info we are done. Next we have to take care of paragraph. So let's select it with the class name post text. We need to increase its font size 1.6 rems. Also I'm going to make some space at the bottom with margin bottom with value 1 rem. Okay, so paragraph is customized, and the last thing regarding the post live is to style those font awesome icons which are placed down below after the image. First of all, let's create some space at the top of the icon. So I'm going to select the wrapper div element. Let's assign to it margin top with the value 1 rem. Next, I'm going to select the icon itself. First of all, let's increase its font size as 1.8 rems. Then I'm going to change the color. Let's make it gray using color 868383. And finally, let's create some space in right side of each icon by using margin right with the value 6 rems. Alright, so that's it about the post. So next we are going to create who to follow. So for that, come to HTML structure and start writing HTML. So come back to code. Open div elements, which is going to be a wrapper, and assign a class name follow. Now let's create an heading element with h3 with class name follow heading. And insert here text who to follow. Next, I'm going to create a div element for the user. Let's assign a class name follow user. So inside the div element, we will have three different parts. The first one is going to be an image of the user. Next, we will have the full name and the username, and finally the button to follow. So this div will be the wrapper of the image, and assign a class name follow user img. Now let's insert img element with a proper source path. Next, we need another div which will include full name and the username. So I'm going to assign a class follow user info, and then insert inside of it h4 heading element with a text and Smith. Next, we need a paragraph for the username and add @ and add username Anna Smith. Alright, so finally we need to create a button. We should have type button. Also, I'm going to assign a class name follow btn, and then insert here text follow. Okay, so that's it about the first user. Overall, we will have 4 of them. So let's duplicate the first one and then paste it for 3 times, and then make some changes like post. So now change the name of the image and make it user6. Also change the full name, and it's going to be Daisy Gym, and then change the username Daisy. And now again change the image to user3, and also change the name to Aaron Smith, and then change the username to Aaron Smith. And finally, for the last user, change the image user to 2, and then change the full name. It's going to be Sylvie Finch, and also change the username Sylvie Finch 02. Alright, so that's it about the user. Next we will create a link to show more. So come back to code and open a div elements and assign a class name follow link. Next we need to insert here link element with the text show more. After that I'm going to create a footer. So open HTML5 footer element with the class name follow footer. So the footer is going to be represented by a list. So we need here UL element. Fit I'm going to insert li element which should be followed by link. So overall we need 5 list items. So duplicate this for 4 times. So the first item will be terms and the second one will be privacy policy and the third one will be cookies and the fourth one will be about and finally the last item will be more. Alright, so that's it about the HTML markup and now we will style this. So now select the wrapper div element and set its position as fixed. So now set top position as 8 ramps. As for the left property, set it as 57%. And finally change background color and make it as white. FFF. Alright, so let's decrease the size of the images now. So select the wrapper div element which have class name follow user img, then set width and height both property as 6 rem. After that we will select the image itself because we have to set width and height as 100%. And besides that we have to use object fit value cover. And lastly let's make image rounded with border radius using value 50%. Alright, so that's it about the images, they are smaller. And now we can style the rest of the elements. So before that let's define the width for the wrapper. I'm going to make it 35 rem. So after that I'm going to style the heading element. So let's go ahead and select it. I'm going to create some space in heading using padding. Let's make it 1 rem. Also increase the font size, make it 1.8 rems, and finally create a border at the bottom with the values 0.1 rem solid and color will be white EEE. Alright, so heading we are done. Next take care of the alignment of the users. So for that select the div element which has a class name follow user. So inside of the div elements we will have 3 different parts: an image, an user, info and button, and I'm going to flex them horizontally in a row. So for that we will give display flex. Next place them vertically in the center with align item center. Besides that I'm going to create some space with padding with a value 1.5 rem and create border bottom with 0.1 rem solid and the color will be EEE. Okay, so next create some space on the right side of an image. For that, let's assign to a wrapper and give margin with the value 2rem. Alright, so let's move on and style the full name and the username. So we are going to increase the font size for them. So let's select the heading element and also select the paragraph selector because we will use same font size for them. So give font size with a value 1.6 rem. And also let's create some space at the bottom using margin button 0.5 rem. Alright, so that's it about the user info. So next we have to take care about the button. So let's go ahead and select it. First of all, I'm going to place the button on the right side of the section, and for that we can use margin left and we have to set it as auto. Next, let's start customizing of the button, increase its width and make it as 9 rems. And also change the background color. I'm going to make it white FFF. And also change the color of the text. Make it blue using 1AA 1F5. So now let's create some space inside the button. For that we will use padding. So on top and bottom I'm going to use 0.7 rem and for the left and right 0.5 rem. Next, create border with values 0.1 rem solid and the color will be blue 1AA 1F5. And now give border radius with a value 2 rem and let's increase the font size and make it as 1.6 rem. And finally let's give cursor pointer. Alright, so as you see with buttons we are done and they are looking nice. So let's go. Next, go ahead and customize the link show more. So let's select this wrapper with the class name follow link and create some space using margin. On top and bottom I'm going to use 2 rems. As for the left and right, let's set margin as 1 rem. After that select the link element itself and get rid of default underline using text decoration none, and then change the color. Use here 1AA 1F5 and increase the font size and make it as 1.5 rem. Okay, so with the link element we are done, and finally we have to take care of the footer. So let's go ahead and select the footer element and change background color. I'm going to make it F0 F8 FD. Next we need to customize the list, so select eval elements. First of all, let's get rid of default bullet using list style none, and then we need to place items horizontally in a row, and for that let's use flexbox, so give display flex. And finally create some space from top and bottom using padding and assign its value to them, and left and right be 0. So now select the link element and remove default underline using text decoration none and increase the font size to 1.5 rem and change the color of the text to 868383. So now let's give some space using margin to 0 and 0.7 rem. Okay, so let's reduce the font size make it 1.4 RAM. Alright, so we have finished working on this section. Next we will create post button. So now let's go to HTML markup. So this is the last thing of the first page, the post button. So let's open a button element. So before that, give a comment post button and then select the button element right up the end of its content. Its type will be button, and also we need a class name post btn. Now let's insert some icons. Let's open here I element and give a font awesome class fas fa dash feather dash alt. And then we need post. So the button is in down right now. Here is the button. So let's style it. So first let's comment out as post button. Now let's select the class. So first let's take care the position of the button. So for that give position fixed and also define bottom property with a value 2 rem. So now let's define left position and assign a value 68%. And then let's define it with it and make it 12 rems. Also create some space inside the button using padding. Let's define padding 1.5 rem top and button and left and right as 1 rem. And now change the background color 1AA 1F5. Also change the color of the text, make it as white. After that let's increase the font size and make it 2 rems. And then change the default border to its value 0.1 rem solid. The color will be 1AA 1F5. And then make border rounded using border radius with a value 3 rems. And also change the cursor to pointer. And then create shadow using box shadow with a value 0.3 rems and then 1 rem. And the color will be RGBA 0.3. Okay, so I've done mistake somewhere. So let's check it out. So this will be the post btn, not post. So now let's check it. Okay, so everything is looking fine. So now the last thing we need to give is to create some hover effect. On hover effect, I am going to change its background color. So let's select it, the button with hover, and then change background color, make it as 117 A double B, and also use transition with values, background color, and duration will be 0.3 seconds. So the first page is complete now. So there is only one or two part left to complete this series. So for that, please subscribe the channel and like this video. And also turn on the bell icon so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. Thank you.